She called the cops on me for moving into my own ranch, but she had no idea who I really was. I arrived in my new ranch's driveway in the late afternoon. The wide fields are covered with long shadows from the sun. Months after my family had bought the property, I had finally moved in to take charge of things, make myself at home, and begin running the place we had so diligently worked so hard to acquire. I anticipated a calm, unremarkable day. However, the HOA president, Kathy Simmons, had other ideas. Kathy arrived just as I had just gotten out of the truck, her heels clacking hard on the gravel as she holds her clipboard. "You can't just move in," she yelled in a high-pitched voice. "This property belongs to the HOA. Every rule in the book is being broken by you." I arched an eyebrow while maintaining a composed tone. "This is my property, Kathy. I bought it lawfully. I have every right to be here, and all the paperwork and permits are in order." Despite her red face, she remained unfazed. "I'm going to call the police. You're intruding. This move-in is unlawful." She made wand-like motions with her phone. As I prepared to call for help, I let her take the phone and calmly explain the circumstances to the deputies who were coming. Kathy began her customary tirade about regulations, penalties, and alleged infractions as they got closer, blatantly using intimidation to get acquiescence. At that point, I felt it was appropriate to provide some background information. Apparently, she had forgotten. "You do realize," I responded coolly, "that my family has been running vast holdings and ranches in this state for many generations. My name appears on numerous agricultural boards, water rights agreements, and land development records around the county. I have managed businesses much bigger than this entire HOA put together." Kathy halted as astonishment and realization took hold, causing her eyes to widen. As the impact of what I had said sunk in, the deputies looked first at me and then at her. This was more than simply a newcomer. Her modest HOA authority was dwarfed by her family and personal qualifications. Someone who was obviously incapable of understanding the concepts of land management, legal jurisdiction, and property rights. Her voice trailed off. However, I phoned the cops. "Ma'am, the law is on his side," one of the deputies whispered softly, trying not to laugh. "Legally, the property belongs to him. We are unable to enforce anything here." Kathy lost her self-assurance. She became aware that her attempts to establish control were totally pointless, and the color left her face. The truth of who I was and what I was legally entitled to had disproved every grievance, perceived infraction, and intimidation effort. By the time she departed, she was murmuring about community norms and regulations. There was no longer any stress. With the knowledge that the land, the ranch, and my rights were completely protected, I strolled across my property and watched the sun sparkle off the fields, barns, and fences. On my first day, the HOA had tried to intimidate me, but they were unable to handle the unavoidable reality of ownership, experience, and power. The episode was later discussed in whispers by the neighbors, who were shocked by Kathy's boldness and subsequent shame. They had witnessed her storm in, shouting about infractions, and then watch her fall apart when reality set in. She had attempted to intimidate someone who wasn't merely a resident. In the realm of ranches and land management, he was the proprietor, the operator, and a respected authority. The ranch was quiet once more. The lake glistened, the fields extended, and the cottage remained safe and silent. Kathy had discovered, in the most humble way imaginable, that a clipboard and a phone are not enough to win every war. It turns out that certain authorities just exist in their own imaginations.